Hello. We're saying hello.
I think we're saying
We're saying
hello.
hello. Are we here?
We
Hopefully.
are here.
We should be here.
We
I
should be
clicked the
here.
button. Oh,
We'll let the chat confirm that we're somewhat here.
Hmm. Are
we are all
We're
professionals.
here.
Oh, I think we're here.
The chat in the
I
back.
see us on my
Say hi.
laptop, so that's encouraging.
That is good. Okay. Well then, hello, and welcome to F the algorithm, the version of the eyeball zone that could use being eyeball zoned. Um, where we talk about small creators and try to give them a leg up, but also use it as an excuse to hang out with one another. Um, it's been a little while since we've done one, but even longer since we've done one with Zoe B. And today we're broadcasting live all the way from sunny Zoe B. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I am always so excited to get to hang out with some of my favorite people and talk about smaller creators because that is what we are here for.
That's
Uh,
right.
Absolutely, and we also are joined by we're the Leftist Cooks. I'm
Yes,
Neil. This
that's, yeah, introduce.
we you probably already know that, and then
No, they don't.
yeah,
No one here.
the people who come to the FE algorithm stream, you're our dear friends, and you all know mainly Mandy as well,
Yes.
who for me is in the top corner, but I don't know where Mandy is springing air from anywhere. How are you, Mandy?
It's been a bit of a stressful day, to be honest with you. I also today am acting as a pseudo Caitlin Conrad, which is terrifying. So I'm on the tech side today. So, chat, if anything sounds weird, let me know. I will do my best. But just so you all know, that's who I am, both myself and I am Caitlin Conrad, and the pressure is on.
Yes, but be nice, please, chat.
Yes, please be nice. I'm fragile.
Yeah, you stepped in at the last minute to rescue us all, and we deeply appreciate it because Kaylin couldn't join us. And I understand the pressure because I've been a pseudo Kaylin Conrad all my life. Um, you are going to drive this boat up the mountain, and we hopefully will be joined by our dear friend Hoots as well, who's just having some technical difficulties at the moment. Part of the rest of the reason for the delay. And Kanan couldn't join us, and normally brings exuberant personality and all of the tech expertise. And we also are not joined, as we usually are, by Mika from Ponderful. But we'll talk about and plug our friends after a little while. Oh, do we actually have Hoots? Hopefully, we have Hoots. Hi, Hoots. We Hoots is
Hello,
here.
Hoots.
Hoots is trying. Pay for effort. We're all professionals.
Everyone, give Hoots a lot of love in the chat, please. We love our Hoots.
One's in chat if Hoots is here. Two's in chat if Hoots is not here. Three's if other. Yeah, so I actually thought it might be fun to have the first video. Let's just start watching videos. I thought it might be fun to have you introduce the first video, Zoe, because you kind of pulled us in. You were so excited about this video. You were like, "We have to do an F the algorithm. I want to talk about this creator." So
Yes. Yeah,
unleash your.
so I got an email from this absolutely lovely creator named Sydney, and it was just like one of the sweetest emails. And they said, "Hey, I have been reached out to by, I will kid you not, 6 entirely independent people who all said, hey, you should get in touch with Zoe B about F the algorithm." And so, like, how could I not be like, yeah, of course. Um, because I checked out their stuff and they are just so charming and so incredible and just this wonderful on screen energy that they have. So let me give a little, I wrote down a whole blurb because I want to make sure to get it right. So we are going to be watching the work of Sydney, who uses they, them pronouns, and they are an openly queer, disabled, autistic, trans, non binary actor, composer, YouTuber, educator, media analyst, and disability advocate. They make video essays about disability history, accessible education, life as a disabled, chronically ill trans person, and analyses of media and popular research. So they do a lot of stuff. And they also have a full length documentary on their channel about their university thesis around arts education. But so that is like definitely worth checking out. But because we unfortunately could not watch an entire documentary length short film, or film, I guess that's what documentary length means. What we will be watching today is the first couple minutes of their video, All Disney Princesses Are Autistic, which is so fun, and I love it so much, and I'm so excited to share it with all of you. It's so fun. All right, Mandy, when you are ready.
All right, everybody, hold on to your butts, as that one movie said.
Today and the sun is setting and I'm kind of stressed. But anyway, today is part 2 of my literature special interest. This is the part that's more of a special interest than the last part because it combines a few of my special interests and I am really excited. You already know what it is by the title, so doing some big reveal would be super pointless. But anyway, today we are going to talk about how all Disney princesses are autistic. Now, if you haven't seen my recent-ish video about neurodiversity in literature, you can check it out over here. But basically, we talked about how some literature tropes are...
That's not playing the stream.
I think they can hear it, but not see it.
I couldn't see it. If I have it like this, is it okay?
Oh,
So
yes.
Oh,
yes,
there you go.
that's it.
Okay,
Oh,
so I
no.
can't do full screen. Sorry, everybody. You won't get full
Okay.
screen, but as long as it's like this, I think it'll work. I'll go back. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. One's in chat if Mandy's doing a great job and there are no other numbers.
Yeah, now it's
No
it's
other
gone
numbers
again.
exist. Okay, let's start this again.
So if this is I think evidence why we should all appreciate Kaylin and
Shout some love to Kaylin Conrad in the chat, please. Here we go.
it is still black on the stream.
On the
Yeah,
sh-
I'm not seeing. Why don't you start it, Mandy, and we'll give you a.
Okay, so it's here now.
It's here now.
And now it's gone.
So if I hit
to film today and the sun is setting and I'm kind of stressed. But anyway, today is part 2
It's like there
of
for a
my
second and then
literature
it's
special
gone.
interest. This is the part that's more of a special interest than the last part because it combines a few of my special interests and I am really
There,
excited.
there.
You already know what it is by
Yeah,
the
we're
title,
good,
so
we're
doing
good.
some big reveal would be super pointless. But anyway, today we are going to talk about how all Disney princesses are autistic. Now, if you haven't seen my recent-ish video about neurodiversity in literature, you can check it out over here. But basically, we talked about how some literature tropes are created by neurodivergent people and how we know this. And there are 2 reasons why we know this. The first part is that a well-rounded and well-written autistic character in literature in the past, before we had a name for autism and before anybody thought to do specific research on it and write a character from that perspective on purpose, it's likely that that type of person, we would now categorize them as autistic because every author puts a piece of themselves into every single character they write. So if every character of several of an author's stories has more autistic traits than neurotypical traits, we can safely assume that that author was probably neurodivergent. The second part is that tropes are created by somebody doing something super brand new, super out of the box, being mega successful, and then everybody copying it in some iteration, which means that a well-written trope of an autistic character, such as the absent-minded professor, has to, at some point, have an autistic person at the root of it all. We also discussed some examples of tropes, and 2 of them basically cover all Disney princesses. So to recap those 2, we have 1, the dreamer, essentially the femme version of the absent-minded professor in a way. It's the character that lives in books and imagination and is super intelligent and just a little bit odd, but a kindred spirit. So some examples of that include Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter, and Shirley from Anne of Green Gables, and Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And the second one is the blank slate. This is the character that seems to have no personality other than being generic, kind human. And that's not a bad thing, but they seem unnaturally perfect, and like, how does everybody like them? And one might just think that that's lazy character writing, but to an autistic person who tried far too long to chameleon their personality to cater other people as an attempt to be perfect and get friends, because maybe by being a perfect goody two-shoes, I would feel more comfortable and just fade into the background. Just a little bit too spot on. But anyway, some examples include Jane Bennett from Pride and Prejudice and Beth March from Little Women. So, to combine those 2 tropes, we have a girl who is smart, quick-witted, and a go-getter who doesn't totally fit into social norms, but at the same time, people can't get mad at her because she is generic, kind human who happens to be friends with anything and everything and is kind all the time, even to random animals. And when you put it that way, all Disney princesses are absolutely, in every single possible way, autistic. Now, as much fun as it would be to break down every single princess and describe specifically what their story is and how their traits and tropes prove my point about them all being autistic, that would make this video several hours long, and I would have fun making it, but nobody would watch it. So I'm going to do a general overview, and then I'm going to, over time, make videos breaking down individual princesses. Yes, I do have a spreadsheet going with facts and sources. Honestly, if I'd done this the way that my brain wanted to, I would have already covered them all, but I'm rationing them out. I'm rationing out the dopamine. So we are going to talk about the three major dudes, or rather groups of dudes, from which we get the fairy tales that the original Disney princess movies and a few of the recent ones were based on, and what we know about them. So we're going to start with an easy one. My man Hans Christian Andersen. He's known for The Ugly Duckling, Thumbelina, The Emperor's New Clothes, The Little Mermaid, The Princess and the Pea.
So that is the first couple minutes of all Disney princesses are autistic. So I actually did not start with this video. I actually started with their video on how Lilo from Lilo and Stitch is autistic. And that is like, it was like mind-blowing to me, and it was like some of the best, like most interesting and like different literary analysis that I have seen done in video essays. And I was like, I need more of this. And so then I started back through the entire series of Disney princesses being autistic, and it was just so fun. So yeah, I will now open it up to the
I
crowd.
mean, if I can, they're just a delight. There's always that thing where there's somebody that we're sharing an FD algorithm, and you're being introduced, especially if you're being introduced to a creator for the first time. And there is the part of you that's like, oh, it's great that this is going to reach more people, and more people are gonna, be like, oh, this creator is amazing. But also you have the little bit of like, okay, but we have to be friends now. I want to be friends with this person. And you always get that sense of like, oh, great, somebody else that's gonna be like, interesting to pick their brain about things. But you get the joy of that with video essayists anyway. I mean, that's the same experience essentially. It's like just someone whose brain is a joy to kind of hear them picking something apart. And then it just felt sort of inevitable, didn't it? It was the more they went on, it was like, oh yeah, like I don't know if I've ever been sold on a premise this quickly with such an outrageous clickbait title. I'm like, no, you're just fully right, and now please spend however many years of your life just saying that.
Yeah, no, we muted it. We mute ourselves. We're very professional, but I was like poking Neil, and I'm like, oh, that person, I love that person. Oh yeah, they do seem quite autistic, don't they? Isn't that lovely? I don't know. This creator's like exuberance and personality is really shining through in this piece, and like it seems like someone I want to hang out with, and like, yes, I will sit for hours and let this person tell me things. And personally, I've been looking to like find more autistic media lately, so like I'm delighted. I'm gonna immediately go watch all of their stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a great
Really?
back catalog. Also, like that sort of effortless, like the atmosphere there is I think quite knowing. I think that there's, or at least that's pure raw talent in terms of making it seem so effortless, and making it such a, yeah, like it's such easy accessible language, and it was just sort of flowing very naturalistically. But I'm like, you have picked those words though. That's not just like, so I always really impressed with that. And like we just recently made a video where I contended at the end, quite by accident, that Spider-Man is autistic. I'm starting to wonder if it's just a thing about like writers writing characters and writers being autistic. Because like in the course of that, like I actually, in the course of making that video, I kind of came out as autistic.
Because you only recently figured out that
yes,
they were
exactly,
autistic. Yeah.
And so in a similar vein, it's like, oh, hungry for all of that, for videos of a similar nature in some ways, because they are, you feel seen, you feel sort of, oh, like, we're everywhere, like the world is full of this, but also, yeah, because it's like endlessly helpful, edifying, and fun, it's social, mutual that way. So yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
Mandy,
I
what
just-
did you think?
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
Mandy, we
I
want your
don't have
thoughts.
too much to add because I am in that anxious place of like running all the tech, and I'm just like, is everything working? And apparently, it wasn't for a little bit, so I do apologize for that chat. But yes, that was very charming. I definitely want to watch more of this video. The way I have to like make this video work, I couldn't really see exactly where the time was on it. So at one point, I'm like, I have no idea if I've gone past what Zoe said was the end point, but I'm just kind of enjoying it. So yeah, this seems about maybe right. I don't know. So if I cut it off too soon, Zoe, I do apologize. I think it was.
Oh no, it's
about
fine.
right.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
okay.
you were
Cool.
fine. Yeah,
But
Mandy
no,
is
I'm
great.
definitely gonna go back and watch all of this video later. So thank you for presenting with us with this. This is great.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, like I said at the beginning, there were 6. They said 6 people separately, independently, told them that they should reach out to me, and I'm so glad that all of those people did because
Mhm.
their stuff is just so. I mean, like you were saying, Neil, like the energy that they have is just so good. Like it is very clear that Sydney is a like, if not already, is going to be like a very well received, I think, educator and advocate because the energy and the language that they use and just everything is just great. Something that I really like. So that video that we just watched is a couple of years old, and something that they've started doing in their newer videos is at the beginning they give a rundown of like, here's who I am and here's what I do, and then they also give a like description of themselves for like people with visual impairments. And that's because what they do is like disability advocacy, and that's just like a really nice touch that you don't see a lot. And that's, I don't know, so it's just something that is, I think, like commendable, and you know puts that in my head of like, am I doing enough? Am like, here are some things that other creators can do to be more accessible with the content they make, and so that's great. But yeah, I'm so glad that you all enjoyed it.
So much.
Yeah, no,
Very good
I
choice.
like you say, I could see that being someone that we're all still talking about
Yes.
for a while, and yeah, I like. Okay, so that was Sydney Zarlango. I
Yes.
don't know if I'm saying that right or right enough. So they them, and the idea here is if that video did appeal to you, that we'll get you, or we have already gotten you a link in the chat. There will be a playlist available at a later point.
Yeah, the link has been posted in the chat. I'm supposed to do that, but I forgot, so Zoe beat me to it. But I will do it from here on out. We'll put the links in the chat to the channel, but also we have our own dedicated channel. It is F the Algorithm on YouTube. And in theory, we'd be streaming from that channel, but ironically, we haven't been favored by the algorithm on our F the Algorithm channel. So we've been streaming from our own channels, or for example, for today, we're streaming from Zoe B's channel. Thank you very much. And so we will post this stream to our actual channel as soon as it's done. And there will also be, we have playlists for every F the Algorithm stream we've ever done. So if you've missed previous ones, you can go watch the recordings of all of our previous streams, but you can also see all of our playlists. So if you want to look up, just scroll through different creators, and don't subscribe if you're not gonna watch, because no one wants a blank subscription. If it doesn't appeal to you, don't look. I don't know how it couldn't appeal to you. Sydney was so charming, but like, it's just a chance for you to discover a new creator. If they appeal to you, go subscribe.
Yeah, and some of your past live streams have some pretty high-end guest people, if that's
Yeah, like Zoe B, for example.
I'm not talking about myself.
I am.
It is true. It is true. I'm not one to drop names, so I'll just move on.
I have no shame.
Mandy, drop the names. Do it.
Oh no, we've been very lucky. We've been surrounded by amazing people
Yes.
of all sorts of different sizes, and FG Signifiers had us on, and we've had Turb on, and we've had all sorts of wonderful friends.
And Legal Kimchi.
Legal Kimchi's been on the list as well.
Jose.
FD Signifier, just saying.
Yep, and Zoe B, and
He was our very, very first Guest host because you were so enthusiastic immediately about this project,
Yeah.
which is lovely.
Because it's cool and great.
So
And it is tremendous fun as well. But okay, I was going to say that the algorithm itself is sort of centered around the user. It's meant to be like it's serving you the videos that you want to see, and it's not oriented around filthy creators like us. We have to just deal with it. But you should treat this similarly. It's like we are giving you a video, and if you don't want to watch it, well then don't be a dead subscriber. It's fine. It's fine. But we will you know continue to kind of like provide the playlists, and you can go and subscribe to the channel and find these. It's a great treasure trove for exactly this sort of thing, and very exciting smaller creators who are a little less small now, which is fun too. And you can watch
the small creators are like bigger than us now, so
that is also true.
So
Yes, and from tiny acorn to mighty buffalo growth. But moving on, you have a recommendation as well.
I have a recommendation.
And
Let me get the thing up so I don't screw up. So okay, so I'm next. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off immediately. So my recommendation is Mitch. They them pronouns. They are a lawyer, or they're studying to get a JD. I'm sorry, I don't. So I've watched 3 of their videos, or parts of all 3 of their videos. They're really new. Right now, they have 38 subscribers. So you are really catching this person as they're starting. Really good. I'll give a caution that, like, if you're not interested in like US matters or US law, maybe this isn't the creator for you. But for somebody like me who's like a policy wonk and who doesn't know anything about the actual practicalities of the law, very good creator. It was really hard to pick a section of the video to show for this because I was like, everything leads on from everything else. So I picked a section, but it is within a video that is so expansive on explaining every little intricacy of how the system works in a way that I think is like really missing from a lot of YouTube videos. And I really appreciate when somebody who is an expert in their field comes on and shares their education and democratizes it. So this whole video is great. I really hope you like it. And that's the end of my intro. I'm sorry.
That was a
Don't be
great
sorry.
intro. Don't be sorry. I loved it.
So Suzaka.
Suzaka. Mitch. I should have said the name of the channel. Suzaka. There we go.
All right, we ready? Oh, hang on. Let me hit the right buttons in the right order. Okay, here we go.
We got the algorithm.
Alright, so what does the Equal Protection Clause even do? Well, today the Equal Protection Clause prevents the government from discriminating against people based on certain immutable characteristics, like race, national origin, alienage, sex, and having unmarried parents. It does not prevent the government from discriminating against people based on age, disability, poverty, or any other group of people, really. This weird set of suspect classes has their legal birth from a footnote in a 1938 Supreme Court case. Yeah, law is a nightmare, and sometimes you get an entire constitutional doctrine from a random footnote. Footnote 4, as it's known, comes from United States v. Caroline Products Co., a case about whether the government could prosecute this company for illegally selling filled milk cut with vegetable oil. You couldn't make this up, and if you tried, it would be too coherent to be law. Anyways, the footnote in the milk case gives us the test the Supreme Court still uses today to decide whether or not a group of people deserves the full protection of the Equal Protection Clause. Basically, the Caroline Products test asks 4 questions to determine whether a group of people counts as a discrete insular minority, deserving of suspect classification. First, has the group faced a history of discrimination? Second, does the group lack political power? Third, is the group based on an immutable characteristic? Lastly, does the characteristic have no bearing on the group's ability to contribute to society? If you affirmatively answer all of those questions, your group becomes a suspect class and becomes entitled to heightened legal protections. Because a suspect class has been subjected to discrimination and they lack political power, the Supreme Court reviews laws more carefully when they treat people differently based on differences that the court considers suspect. In the legal world, this is called the tiers of scrutiny. Originally, when the court made this whole tiers of scrutiny thing up, there were two levels: strict scrutiny and rational basis. Under strict scrutiny, the court is almost certainly going to strike down a law as unconstitutional, because in order to save the law, the government has to prove that the law is, quote, narrowly tailored to meet a compelling state interest, end quote. That's legalese for you better have a really good reason for doing this, and you need to show your work. The government is rarely able to satisfy this standard, which is why strict scrutiny is often considered fatal in fact. If you trigger its application, you are almost guaranteed to lose. Rational basis is the precise opposite. As long as the government offers a single, rational reason for the law, it is fine, and courts won't really question the government for that reason. You can see how high stakes this test is from the milk case. Like, it all comes from that one footnote. And if you win this test, courts all across the nation are supposed to vigorously defend your rights and question the government when it tries to treat you differently. If you lose, the court is going to defer to the government and likely trust that what they're doing isn't really all that bad. Currently, the law says there are 5 suspect classifications: race, national origin, alienage, sex, and having unmarried parents. Of those, race, national origin, alienage, and having unmarried parents get strict scrutiny. But sex, that doesn't get strict scrutiny. To explain here, I'm going to do a great deal of summarizing, but sex-based classifications get what's called intermediate scrutiny, meaning that's somewhere in between strict scrutiny and rational basis. You're probably thinking, wait a minute, why doesn't sex discrimination get strict scrutiny like all those other categories? They just made up a third option? For a long time, sex discrimination only received rational basis review. This is your reminder that women only got the right to vote in 1920. But lawyers like Ruth Bader Ginsburg pushed to have sex discrimination reviewed under strict scrutiny, synthesizing the rulings of United States v. Virginia, Craig v. Boren, and Reed versus Reed. The Supreme Court reasoned that laws based on, quote, harmful stereotypes, end quote, are unconstitutional, but laws based on, quote, real differences, end quote, between men and women are completely fine. As a non-binary person, I rather predictably have reservations about the gender and sex essentialist logic that's oozing from this standard. Catherine McKinnon, an influential dominance theory feminist, with whom I do not agree entirely, particularly her opinions on sex work, offers a useful critique.
The philosophy underlying the difference approach is that sex is a difference, a division, a distinction beneath which lies a stratum of human commonality, sameness. Its underlying story is, on the first day, difference was. On the second day, a division was created upon it. On the third day, irrational instances of dominance arose. Division may be rational or irrational. Dominance either seems or is justified. Difference is. There is a politics to this. Concealed is the substantive way in which man has become the measure of all things. On the first day that matters, dominance.
That's cool. That's cool.
Aren't they great?
Yeah, that's great. That's really important. I feel like you picked a good bit, but I feel like it was one of those videos where it must build on itself right from the start.
It's really hard because they start at the very beginning being like, so here's what a clause is. Like the Equal Protection Clause, we're talking about the Equal Protection Clause. Here's what a clause is. And it's like very hard because I'm like, there's no point at which in their video you can jump and like not. But I feel like that as a creator sometimes, where we're trying to talk about a topic and I'm like, no, you can't talk about this unless you go over all of this stuff. It's really important that people understand all of this foundational stuff before you go to this. So like I find their entire video on this video and their others just like very dense, very informative. This is the first video they ever made. Like, this is the quality they're starting with. It's extraordinary. And they sent this to us. They sent this to us on the algorithm, and I looked at it for 10 minutes and I was like, well, this creator is amazing. But we try and only profile creators if they're like active. And which is a new-ish rule, but you know, we don't
make the way for somebody who's going to continue to like,
exactly. If we get someone like a ton of followers, we don't want them to be like, thank you so much, I've actually given up on YouTube. So Mitch sent us this and I sent them back an email being like, well, this is your only video, get back in touch when you've made a couple more. And they had made 2 more and they got back in touch and said, I've made 3 now. And I went and looked, and their other videos are fantastic too. The same level of like dense but informative, really important, really educational. If you're not in the States, it might not be quite as compelling, but as somebody who's from the States, it's incredibly compelling to me. And I think even because America is such, you know, has such a global hegemony, has such an influence on the rest of the world, knowing why things happen in the States is still actually really important. So I'm just a huge fan of their work. I really like it. They've only got 3 videos out. They only had 38 subscribers when I looked yesterday and put it into our little document where we keep track of people. So I hope that changes. But again, don't subscribe if you're not gonna watch. You know, nobody wants a dead subscriber. But like, if it's something where you do want to sit down and get educated on some of the like legal precedent that leads us to the systems that we have now, I just found it so, I don't know, so compelling.
for sure.
I don't want to get canceled. So here's a hot take that I will try to keep as cool and chill as possible. So
Okay.
there are there are some creators on YouTube who make content about legal issues and turning legal language into something that is much more easily understood. And I'm not talking about Legal Kimchi. We love Legal Kimchi here. Shout out Legal Kimchi.
Legal Kimchi.
Love your work.
He's in the chat right now.
No, but there are some much larger creators who do that sort of thing. And I will say, I don't really like it. I don't enjoy him that much. So I loved this. This I feel like is what some of those other channels could do and don't. Because I feel like a lot of those other channels care more about the like, Sarah, are you laughing at me?
Never. I'm also pouring myself a drink.
Okay. Sure, right. But no, I feel like this just does such a good job of like making it easy to understand without like sacrificing the actual like educational value. Like clearly they care about like the production value and they care about the like energy and the makeup and the like everything. Like there is a very much like performative nature to it. But they're not sacrificing the actual like educational quality for that. You know, the like style over substance. They're not doing style over substance, I guess, to put it more succinctly. But yeah, so that's, you know, legal who is what I'll say.
You did it. That's why Sarah's actually crying because it's her favorite channel.
Favorite.
It's everybody's favorite channel. No, I think I was going to make a really similar point. It was just going to be less spicy. So I'll make it anyway. It can be like a less spicy dessert. To your point, because I have this issue where it's like, at what level do you pitch the video, right? You can you can talk about what the thing is about, or you can make some other video that's kind of about the thing, but it's like, pretends to be about fucking Elon Musk or whatever. Then that's sort of the forever calculus. I've had endless. I think I've had a couple of conversations with you about this, so, and I've had endless conversations with Tom Nicholas about this. But I don't drop names. As we know. But yeah, like sometimes you just want to make a video it's just about the fucking thing. Like I really care about the tax system in Ireland, like the way that we the corporation tax rate in Ireland, and the fact that we are the international fund embezzlers,
the biggest tax haven in the world.
And I really want to talk about that, but in order to talk about that, or to talk about like a state specific housing market, or I've talked about the housing crisis in 2008, and in order to talk about some of that stuff, you really have to learn a lot, and learn a lot of very technical in-world stuff. It's like that fucking division where it's like leftists should never talk about economics and take it seriously, because and then the other school of thought that's like, no, economics is the only thing that leftists should talk about. And it's like, Jesus Christ, they're in-world specific ideas, and in the same way, it's not a centrist betrayal to engage with the real ins and outs of the legal system as it is. And again, like, what are you going to do? You're going to talk about America because that's the legal system that you understand, and it is a level of expertise that, like, I just basically, long story short, I really respect how much they didn't hold back. And clearly, if you watch the entirety of the video, you would come away with a lot of fucking information, and then you'd probably go and watch it again. And then you would have actually really useful information. And I think a lot of, like, because with the premise, like, I think the status of trans people and people in terms of their transness in the eyes of the law is such an important, so it's like, it's the subject of the age, like, do you know what I mean, in many ways. So this is really, really important stuff, and I'm so glad. Please can we at least double the 38 subscribers or something here,
Well, I was thinking too that it's important. I was saying this to somebody earlier today, where I was having to talk about categories of mental and neurological conditions, and I had to say something about the DSM, and I had to be like, I was specifically talking about grief and the diagnostic criteria for grief in the DSM, or talking about depression and grief and how it interacts. And I was saying, well, in 2013, with the newer the DSM-5, they changed the criteria for depression, because it used to say if somebody is grieving, it doesn't count as depression. They're just grieving. That's a natural process. But they changed that not because the literature reflected that, like, somebody is actually depressed, but because people weren't able to access therapists through insurance companies unless they had a clinical diagnosis. But then there's also the ICD, but the DSM is like the primary Bible of mental and neurological conditions globally. So then, for a lot of people, because America has such a presence, because the States, excuse me, has such a presence, like, the weird little legal, or, just in that it's an insurance company, legislative, or just the systems in place in the States kind of ripple out and create these systems where now all of the research that happens on depression is going to encompass grief if they're going off of the DSM criteria, which is a whole other issue, but it just, I don't know, it's really interesting to hear somebody go through.
It's incredibly relevant. Yeah. So we love you. We love you, Mitch. Please continue to make videos. And
by the way, I just wanted to mention they are in the chat right now, or they were a second ago. So hi, thanks for being here. We like your video.
Yeah, big fans.
Well, I put the link in the chat twice. So if you're somebody that wants to subscribe, go subscribe. I should link, and I'll do it in a minute, to our dedicated FD Algorithm channel where you can check out all of our playlists. And if you're a small creator and you want to messages that said help pop up on their phone, and it freaks them out completely.
Which is fair.
Fair. Very fair.
We're not doing help anymore. So all
No.
all suggestions welcome in the chat
Yeah,
for what
no.
might be like a snappy one
I
line.
mean, we've been effed. Or I want to be effed is
I know.
like nice and cheeky.
Oh, empty so hard. No, maybe not that. Sorry. Sorry.
And look, we're trying to find something that's at least an improvement for the notifications on Caitlin's phone. So just that's the only criteria. It can't be worse than help.
I mean, so I did talk to Caitlin earlier today, and they were like, "Oh, I just uninstalled it from my phone, so I'm not getting the panic anymore." So you can keep saying help,
Yes.
but you can also just make your subject line anything you want, really.
They're the only emails going. Those and like very, very much not serious sponsorship offers are the only emails going.
Just say FD Shadow Legends. That's not it.
It's the FD Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends. FD Shadow Legends is from the other part of the multiverse. And I literally can't imagine. I'm just enjoying the cognitive dissonance of saying the words. If anyone else can actually do that skit, where it's a cross between FD Signifier and Raid Shadow Legends, if you could do that in the moment, I commend you. I cannot. What would that be? It's got a green background.
It would be bad.
It would be bad. It would be maybe it would be better than one of the things, but it would be worse than FD Signifier. Anyway, okay, so we are gonna
Sorry to interrupt, but I've gotten some word from chat and from of course our lovely Mika that they might have missed the email address, like they might have missed some of the submission guidelines. If we could just run through that really quick again. It seems like everything's working again, but I just saw some things about lag and stuff. Just to sorry.
Of course, yes. So just to be fully clear, and we will probably put these details in the description, at least when we post it on the FD Algorithm channel.
That means you have to subscribe to our stupid FD Algorithm channel.
You have to, where some of the most exciting videos are going to be shared forevermore. But the email address, if you are a small creator looking to be shared, is fthealgorithms with an S @gmail.com with the subject line of whatever you want, essentially. Something short and snappy to let us know that you're not trying to do a sponsorship deal, that you're not FD Shadow Legends. And just send us like your name, the name of your channel, your pronouns perhaps, and then a little bit about you, why you make the video. But mostly just get us that sweet content. And it is a good idea if you have a couple of videos behind you and you intend to continue to make videos, because that's just it's just inevitably pragmatically going to take priority over.
We do try and prioritize people who are actively creating, and sometimes there are so many people who are like, I just want to make this one video and it needs to be shared, and that's fantastic, but we're trying to more create a space for long-term people who really want to be creators. And
because the algorithm is really about like building momentum, so it really helps that like momentum building if you have multiple videos. So that's just really like best practice, and like Sarah was saying, it's just like a sort of like triage, most fair to prioritize that.
One of our most successful shares was Dead Domain, and that was just because that was an epic video followed by an epic video, and it was shared by a bunch of other bigger creators. So that would be the real way to do it. If you really want to hack the system, is get shared by lots and lots of people simultaneously and make incredible content. But anyway, speaking of incredible content, both because I'm actually, I'm going to present this one, but the suggestion came from our dear friend, one of my favorite people, Mika from the channel Ponderful, who couldn't actually join us on the stream. I think is in the chat. Hello, I can wave at my phone. Yeah, basically, Questing Refuge is the channel that Mika discovered and wanted to share on this stream. So I'm going to do a less good job of describing the channel. It's actually a channel I had meant to check out forever, because Questing Refuge, they're a really sound person. They've been knocking around in the
We've been
circles.
seeing them around in the same circles. Very good.
Best of takes, best of company, absolutely wonderful. And I had a beat simply because I don't have time to scratch my nose, and I struggle to do the homework part for this channel where I even though the videos really light me up, I'm like, oh yeah, remember you're supposed to do the thing where you watch the small creators and they light you up, and then I do it and I'm like, oh, this is amazing, this really lights me up, why don't I do this more often? And that is exactly what happened with Questing Refuge. I watched this video. There seems to be a bit of a theme this evening, disability advocacy, and I'm a big fan at the moment. Questing Refuge, self-described disabled autistic parent. They them pronouns.
Right?
Yes, Willow.
So yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Lovely. Lovely person.
And yeah, like this video, which is about a show that I really quite enjoyed, that I didn't expect to enjoy, and I get the impression actually that Willow also didn't quite expect to enjoy it as much as they did. Hawkeye on Disney Plus, and which has good disability representation. At least that's what the video argues. And the video could just argue that, and it would be a good video, and it would probably do quite well. But this video gets to be much more sweet and moving than it has any right to be. So I tried to pick, or at least, sorry, no, I did not, because this was Mika.
Taking credit. I see that, Neil.
No, because I was going to play it from the start, because the start is very, very good. The beginning of this video, very, very compelling. I'm actually surprised it doesn't have more views than it does, but that's the nature of YouTube. So like a fool, I would have picked the start because it's amazing, but then Mika had picked a section in the middle that was like, oh, this is very, very moving and sweet. So that's what we're going to watch now. So thank you to Mika, also an incredible creator, and everybody enjoy Questing Refuge.
All right, here we go, everybody. We got this. Should start.
Oh, just in case you were worried, Bell was consistent with his eugenics. Mabel never publicly disagreed with any of her husband's speeches or writings, and she never identified as deaf. She prided herself on being able to blend in like someone that could hear. Yet, when she was nearing death from cancer, she wrote to her daughter, Elsie.
Having taught you all my life to forget that I was deaf, I now want you to remember it.
It makes me sad to think she lived her whole life trying to live to everyone else's expectations, trying to fit in. And this to me is at the heart of the problem focusing on fixing disability. Bell and others like him never seem to stop and consider whether or not this is what the people with those lived experiences actually want. And we see this with many disabilities like autism or Down syndrome. The focus becomes on eliminating these differences, both through preventing future children from being born, as well as teaching those already here to blend in. But it doesn't have to be this way, which brings us back to Hawkeye. In Hawkeye, we get to meet Maya, a deaf character who is proud of their deaf culture. We see this in how she risks unbinding Clint's hands here because she believes he is also deaf, and she wants to give him access to their shared language. Clint, in return, respects that culture. He doesn't take advantage of this moment.
Yeah, sorry. Hard of hearing, not deaf.
If you're not familiar with deaf culture, you may just think Clint is talking about his medical condition here, but he's also giving information about his identity, because someone hard of hearing can be deaf, with a capital D, but Clint is not. Deaf, when spelled with a capital D, signifies being of deaf culture, while deaf with a lowercase d means someone who cannot hear. You can even be part of deaf culture if you are fully hearing, like a child of deaf adults. We also see many characters treat Maya like an equal. Most importantly, we are shown her childhood, or the importance of both the deaf and hearing world.
You have to learn to jump between two worlds.
The show even handles Clint's hearing loss respectfully and with acceptance. He is supported by Kate Bishop when she helps him navigate this call with his son.
What? Daniel? Nathaniel?
We also see Clint and his family have been learning ASL.
I love you, Dad.
I love you more.
And I'm sure these portrayals were better because both the actors really live with these disabilities. Alakwa Cox, who plays Maya, is deaf. Jeremy Renner, playing Clint, is hard of hearing. Hawkeye is a good step in the right direction that I hope we see more of, because our culture, which includes the media we consume, gives us messages that we internalize. Sometimes that can be stereotypes or misconceptions about others that can lead to harm. And other times, the messages can lead to negative thoughts about ourselves. Almost everyone will experience a disability sometime during their life, and many will not recover fully, which is why it's so important to see stories that aren't just about overcoming or fixing disabilities. Not only is acceptance better for others, but it could be crucial for ourselves. And acceptance in no way means denying the difficulties that do exist. In Hawkeye, Maya's father is accepting, but it doesn't change the challenges she faces at school and other aspects of her life.
It's impossible. Sorry.
Maya feels alone, like an outsider. Clint is clearly still adapting to his hearing changing.
You know I'm going to be there, like I said, right? I'm so happy to hear your voice.
We can feel the frustration and desperation when he is unable to communicate the way he wants, especially to someone he loves. This is important because sometimes there is confusion surrounding identities or pride related to disabilities. People on the outside may assume this is sugarcoating disability, but not at all. Acceptance seeks to empower and allow each individual to decide what they need help with or how they want to change if possible. Acceptance of disability means centering disabled people. Rather than ignore suffering, it takes a more critical look at it. Where is the suffering coming from? If it's societal, then why don't we change that? There's also a good chance a change that helps one group of people will benefit everyone. For example, a ramp doesn't just help someone with a wheelchair. Where I went to school, there was a large deaf community, and it helped my social anxiety to be able to write things down to make a food order, which was a standard around that city. That's actually why we need more stories that question the idea that disability just needs to be fixed. It's good for everyone.
Things look dark, but I know this can't be the end.
There is a lot of pressure in this world to always be productive, and I don't think that's healthy for any of us, but can be extra difficult when we're disabled. No one should have to feel like a failure just because they can't live up to expectations that were designed without them in mind. Learning acceptance rejects this and allows us to still be proud of our identity and ourselves. And honestly, that can be life-saving. I hope this video has helped articulate.
Yes, it has.
Sorry, I definitely missed the stop point because I was just watching.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's that it's genuinely that compelling. I also like zoned in, and so had did not remember to remind you to like, I'm just like, you know what, it's just a great video.
Neil, it's your fault. Yeah. Can I start with some comments actually?
Please.
So I'm gonna brag here for a second. I've had the honor of getting to meet Willow in real life, like in person. Did you know you can meet people in real life?
I've heard
That's a
about
thing
it.
you can do. We did like a little like content creator meetup thing in Boston, and I got to meet Willow, and they are absolutely lovely human being, very sweet, stylish, great to talk to them, and also just like who they are as a person comes across really well in their videos. Like there's always that like kind of parasocial thing, but in terms of just like the things that they're passionate about and the way that they are so empathetic and the way that they clearly know what they're talking about, like it all comes across in their videos, and I feel like it all comes across very well in person too. Like I don't know, I watch their videos and I go like, hey, I know Willow, that's Willow, like I don't know. They're just like a really lovely person, and I actually hadn't watched this video yet because I haven't actually watched Hawkeye yet because I kind of got burned out on Marvel for a little bit, and I just haven't been watching as much of their stuff lately. But I have watched some of their other videos too. I believe they had a video about Coraline. I believe that was Willow. That's also absolutely incredible. It's so good, and it has some really amazing points to it that I think everyone should watch. So like there's already a ton of great content on Willow's channel, and I highly recommend people check out the rest of their stuff as well. Obviously, check out their stuff first before subscribing, because as we mentioned before, dead subscribers can really hurt somebody in the algorithm overall. So it's better to like make sure you like what you see and then subscribe and engage and all that. But I can't imagine anybody here wouldn't enjoy Will's content because it's really good. So that's what I just wanted to say.
See, I was gonna start with a brag too, where I was like, yeah, I actually have some mutual friends with them, and it's like
bragging.
Literally, like, I mean, I know, like, Will, you're watching, you'll know who I'm talking about. Nick always like talking about you and how like cool your stuff is. So yeah, mutual friends. But no, like so I have like little note cards where I take notes on the things that we're watching, and as you can see, I wrote down nothing except their name because I got too invested. And I don't know if you were watching closely, you could see I almost cried a couple times because oh gosh, it's very nice. Just like genuinely, I don't know, in like the production value, I feel like I'm not saying anything like super valuable other than like it made me feel things. Which is it's good. It's so I don't know, just very a unique perspective, I think, that is missing in a lot of spaces. And like you mentioned earlier, this really is the like, disability advocacy stream.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, just incredible all around.
I mean, so we had watched Hawkeye. I'm not the biggest fan of Marvel. I've grown to like Marvel. But I found Hawkeye to be incredibly charming. But I didn't know a lot of that. I felt a little bit of whenever I engage with media sometimes where yeah, sorry, I've got a cat now. I have to be very careful because the cat takes priority. He doesn't understand streaming. He just knows I'm not petting him.
Just no thoughts,
but,
just an empty head that needs scritching. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. But some of that was new, and I whispered to Neil during this stream, like, well, I didn't actually even know the difference between lowercase d deaf and uppercase d deaf, and I have friends that are deaf, so like I should know that. There's a bit of like, oh god, a little bit of shame. But it's also like really nice to get that sort of education at the same time as you're watching something that's so engaging. And I think we've all got the intention of educating ourselves more on communities we're not part of. It's incredibly talented for somebody to do that education while they're also presenting something that's so compelling and then so accessible. I've seen a couple of questing refuges videos before. I had naively assumed that they were somebody who had more subscribers. I just thought of them as like a peer. So I'm like I'm surprised to see them enough the algorithm because I had just assumed that they were like a very established creator.
Yeah, I think it's like around 7,000 or 8,000 subscribers. So it is in the it's in the upper end of like it is like tons of success worth applauding, honestly, like outside of but yeah, I think I had this similar feeling of like maybe presuming that they just had more subscribers than us or something like that. But yeah, I completely agree that it was like a very nice way to be educated. And I think what I was going to say was it sort of stands in contrast to the point I made after the previous video, where like, oh, it's great when people are like really uncompromising and they're like really densely, dankly getting into their thing. Whereas at the other end of that spectrum, there's another kind of masterpiece you can make, which is to have your wrapper be so elegant and something that you're sort of genuinely in love with, or that you genuinely are in love with your take on it or whatever, that you've got something really important to say about this cultural touchstone or this news story or this reaction that you're doing. And I think it's interesting as well because it's it was recommended by Mika from Ponderful. Ponderful is really good at using a wrapper to transcend the wrapper and to do something that's really, really moving. Like, one of my favorite video essays of all time is Mika's video about television and autism, and just like the experience of watching television. Raised by television. Thank you. It's an amazing video. I think that, like, using some of those cultural touchstones, like Mandy, like my favorite video of yours about imposter syndrome. And I have no reason to think that why would that be my favorite? But you use those cultural touchstones from the start, and then you're like jumping off. You use video essays as the cultural touchstones. I think sometimes those kinds of masterpieces are really, really exciting too, and they also really light me up. And this is one of those ones where it's like, oh, this is just like peak video essay about a nerdy thing that's on TV. Like, this is so transcended this is a video about a nerdy thing that's on TV. And I love when people do that, because that's one of the things that's so flipping cool about this medium in particular. It's art about art, and sometimes it's really art about art.
The level of analysis that can happen in a YouTube essay, where, especially when it's a community that I'm not a member of, analyzing things, I don't know, it does give you an entry point that becomes accessible. But yeah, it's a really good metric to engage with something. I don't know, I've had too much wine. I'm gonna
It's okay. You're okay. These are valuable contributions. Okay, well, actually, I don't know. Speaking of valuable contributions, our dear friend Hoots is not going to be able to. So we're probably going to push forward the recommendation unless yeah, I think probably what I'll do is I had two picks today, and Hoots had one.
I'll take one of yours.
You can take one of mine.
I'm gonna take the one that
Hoots was gonna do.
No.
If you want, I could do Hoots' recommendation, because I'm actually familiar with her video, because it was originally going to it was
Yes.
You can do, because I was just gonna steal Neil's glory.
I want no part in this. You can make the decisions.
It's like, you can all fight over it.
Oh yeah, you do one now. Zoe, you plug. Have you ever heard of ContraPoints? No. Okay. Please, Mandy, please do tell us about it, because I was excited to see this video. So tell us about this creator.
Yes. So one of the cool things about F the algorithm is that if you start doing this, right, you start telling the algorithm, hey, I want small leftist content. If you start liking, you start subscribing, you start engaging in those comments, guess what? YouTube will start recommending more videos for you. So, it is true. It does work. And I'm proof of this, because this next video actually did come up in my recommendations. Was not familiar with this channel before this. The creator's name is Rohan Davis. I'm not sure of pronouns. I did try to find that, couldn't find it, so I'm going to just refer to them as they, them, just to be safe. They are Indian. I believe they live in the United States now, but I'm not certain about that. I actually was not able to contact this creator, so if anyone knows how to reach out to them, please let me know. I couldn't find an email. I couldn't find a way to reach out to them to let them know what was happening, that we were going to do this, unfortunately. But they came across in my my recommendations one day. I started looking through some of their videos, and they have some great stuff. And part of it is that I want to engage more with like viewpoints that aren't just like quote unquote Western viewpoints, because like I just feel like that's a way of kind of limiting our understanding if we're not engaging with like other countries and other ideas and other perspectives. So there's that. Also, they're making some really interesting content specifically about like sort of these viewpoints that colonialism has taught us about India, and sort of fighting that. And I really appreciate that, because I don't know anything. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't know anything. So I really appreciate that. At one point, I wasn't going to present this person because I was a little overwhelmed with all the tech aspects. So Hoots was going to take it over for me instead. She's dealing with some stuff. We wish her well, obviously. But one thing that she said I wanted to read her little statement about this because I really like this. I was just in India in May, June, and in addition to the pre-colonial history and mythology they mention, there's a version of the Hindu deity Shiva where he combines his wife / mistress Pavarti and becomes Adhanar Shivara. I'm so sorry. There are carvings of this part man, part woman deity in the caves of Elefante Island off the coast of Mumbai. I just totally butchered pronunciation. I'm very sorry about that. But the point is, some of the things that are going to come up in this section of this video are very much talking to this idea about like, hey, there's like more than one gender, more than two genders, and there have been some very interesting cultural things, specifically like in Indian culture, that have been sort of suppressed because of colonialization. And let's fight that because there's like a really rich history. So this is just like one part of this video. I highly recommend checking out the whole video because it's very interesting history and a lot of interesting mythology, as well as just like about sort of Indian culture in general that I think is very important. So that's my intro, and that was very rambly. But
No, I'm very excited now.
I'm so excited.
yeah, everybody get pumped. All right, I'm gonna get this started. Hang on a second.
At the algorithm.
Woo!
The Maratha Empire in the late 1700s had become a formidable power. They forged alliances across the country with Hindu and Islamic states alike, including the Bijapur Sultanate, Golconda, and sometimes even the Mughals when it suited them. They fought multiple wars against the British, until the last Maratha Peshwa, Bajirao II, fell in 1818. The remaining Maratha clans were forced to submit to the British. This was important because Maratha rulers had granted Hijaras and Hijra communities the rights to rent free land and designated territories to practice their cultural rituals and activities. The Marathas also had a system of cash allowances for communities like the Hijra to fund schools and other institutions as well, in order to distribute political patronage and bind subjects to the Maratha state. However, upon the fall of the Maratha Empire, the now dominant colonial government of Bombay took issue with these rights that the Hijra community enjoyed. They considered it state-sanctioned begging, and land grants and rent-free land became the focus as the East India Company felt the strain of resources during their expansion. When I say this, you might be thinking the cost of military investment and so on and so forth, but the reality was that the company was filled with men like Robert Clive, a man who was literally part of a protection racket in Manchester as a teenager, was considered a delinquent even in his adult years by the British. However, this man ended up buying castles in England and India and estates, and even ran a whole political campaign using his loot from India. And that's just one man. The East India Company was also rolling in debt and even underwent the first major corporate bailout in England because they were considered too big to fail. Because of these self-inflicted financial strain, they came to see the inams, the lands granted to the Hijra communities, as opportunity. So in Bombay, 20,000 inams were now considered illegal by 1847. The Bombay government deemed that the Hijra's rent-free land breached the rules of public decency. By today's standards, they basically called it woke. While early European travelers in India had always depicted, portrayed, written about the Hijra community as immoral, it wasn't until the 1850s that the Hijras became a subject of a moral panic among India's British colonials. This panic was prompted by several criminal cases, including the murder of a Hijra named Bura, and a handful of accusations against the Hijra community of kidnapping children. Like most moral panics, the colonial concern with the Hijra community involved a preoccupation with an exaggeration of the threat that deviant behaviors and people were thought to pose to the existing social and political order, their status quo. Yep, just like today. Panic was at the heart of how colonial regimes operated. The colonial state wanted to be seen as the defender of public morals. This highlights the performative quality of the colonial encounters with Hijras. Examples needed to be made, by the arbiters of morals and justice. Take the case of Empress versus Kairathi. In 1884, a trans person in Moradabad district of northern India was arrested by the colonial police after they were found cross-dressing and singing with a group of women. Given the name Kairathi in the case files, they became one of the first to be prosecuted under Section 377. This case came to be known as Queen Empress versus Kairathi, and it was initiated by the police without a complainant. They appeared to have been monitoring Kairathi, who was suspected in their eyes as being a eunuch, leading the presiding judge, Judge Straight. I'm not joking here. His name was actually Judge Straight. Judge Straight commended the desire of the authorities in Moradabad to check these disgusting practices. I'm not going to go into detail on exactly what the colonial police used as evidence here, but it's quite disturbing and very violating. But luckily, the judge actually ended up quashing this conviction because of a lack of evidence and ordered the release of Kairathi. However, that was one of the good endings. Violence against trans people were up and on the rise, and Section 377 authorized the police to register and monitor Hijra communities, so the Hijra were forced to adapt.
No.
More.
I want to watch that entire video.
It's hard to find a good stopping point because they have such a great flow, and you just don't ever want to stop. I actually technically ran that an extra minute because I'm like, this is really good. We're just gonna keep going. I have power, so I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck order and structure.
That's right. I'm mad with power. Caitlin's gone one day.
I really think we should try to form connection with this creator.
Yeah,
though,
Neil
because,
said that to me while we were talking. They're like, we should be their friend.
yeah, we need. Well, I was saying we need anti-British solidarity across Indian and Irish YouTubers.
Right? Yeah.
Let's make a video about the fucking East India Company. But
fuck off.
yeah, like we'll tag them or something like that when we put up the algorithm version of the stream. But
we will have them in our playlist. And if you are one of the handful of creators that we're profiling today, to do make sure we know how to reach you, because we try and keep in contact and do a more mentory type relationship, because as much as the algorithm is helpful and great, a one-time boost doesn't get you that much in YouTube.
Absolutely. And people have formed friendships, and people of smaller or similar sizes have like boosted each other into like premiere chains and things like that. And so it's cool. It's an exciting I suppose it's like you're being vetted by your peers, and just for having shit hot videos, and that's really good. And then it's like, oh yeah, you've got shit hot videos. Come help us make more shit hot videos. And but yeah, I mean, like specific to this, it's like, okay, this is like a small window into something enormous and all encompassing here. That's being like a pristine presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're going to be covering like a lot of things, presumably. And I'm just like, I don't want to do the stream now. I just want to watch that video. I want to watch it.
Great video, and they have other amazing videos too. They've done some interesting ones also about like the history of India, and how like the way that people sort of talk about India, like on behalf of Indian people, and they're just like, hey, don't, which I think is a very important thing to consider. And then they also have videos about like masculinity and how that's presented. I think I can't remember exactly the name of the video, but they have a video about like masculinity and like the media and how that's presented. That's also very interesting. So yeah, if you go and check out this channel and enjoy the content, obviously, leave some comments. And if you want to mention to them like, hey, you were featured on F the Algorithm, and they would love to reach out, I probably could have left a comment too saying that. I think I just left a comment like, oh my god, it's so good, because that's what I usually do. But if anyone wants to mention, I would love to be connected to them. But like I looked, they didn't really have like an email, they didn't have I think they have some articles written too, and I didn't see a way to contact them through their articles, so I'm not really sure how best to reach out to them. They might just not be that online. They might be the kind of person that kind of posts videos and then leaves, which good on them if so. But feel free to let them know if anyone is in contact with them. I'd love to talk.
We are going to try and get in touch with them. Kimchi says they might. Kimchi says he might have their contact information.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you, Kimchi.
Thank you.
Kimchi MVP as always.
Hell yeah.
Something that I loved when looking at their channel, thumbnail game on point.
Yes.
Really?
Someone teach me how to make thumbnails that good, because damn.
Okay.
Just incredible. Honestly.
It's I mean, I think it's a thing that most every creator is insecure about, and so it's kind of like, it's like a dark horse compliment. It's like, oh really, we've got a good thumbnailer. Wow, that's
incredible thumbnails. I love them. Also, I know this isn't the video that we looked at, but there's a short that is Real Writing is Rewriting, which, as your resident writing professor turned video essayist, yes. So those are like my two highest compliments that they get.
Zoe, I like that just now when you just mentioned about like, I don't know how to make a good thumbnail, and then you're just like, yes, and I think that was a great thumbnail right there. Like, I think that would have been perfect. Just saying.
That's how we should all be doing our thumbnails.
I think, yeah,
finger guns.
Everybody should just put me doing finger guns on their thumbnails.
Our channel would be better if we had Zoe B doing finger guns in our next thumbnail. That would be it for us.
I love the idea, Mandy, that you're one of those obnoxious YouTubers who's like on a date or something like that, and you're like, that would have been such a good thumbnail moment. Sorry,
Stop
I mean,
stalking me my dates, okay?
I know all your tricks. Okay, yeah, so that was wonderful, and yeah, and I hope Hoots is doing okay. Sorely missed on this stream. Another incredible creator. So that recommendation came to us by way of Mandy and kind of by way of Hoots as well.
Yeah. Group effort.
So subscribe to every channel. That's what we're saying.
Every channel.
And then watch every video. Well, maybe not some of the horrible people.
All of your time on YouTube.
Exactly.
Don't have real friends.
Don't have real friends. No, but genuinely, like, I feel like there are moments where if you're looking for something to watch, you might default to kind of someone you already know. And, like, India is the most populated country in the world right now, right? Like, and I know one other Indian creator. I have friends from India. I know one other Indian creator. And so it's like a huge blind spot. And I've personally found that, like, I have a lot of trouble finding creators who aren't from the States, Canada, or the UK. And it's a huge disservice because, like, we're kind of perpetuating this specific sort of like imperial core perspective if those are the only channels we're watching. And
yeah,
I don't know, I'm really happy whenever I discover a creator who's not from one of those places. And
I mean, it's sort of the social reification side of hegemony rather than the kind of military industrial complex side of hegemony. So
okay, so who's the next?
Well, funny we should mention all of this actually, because I think maybe if you talk about the channel that we're going to feature next, I'll talk about the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, because I've had lots of wine, so I.
But you love this channel.
I love this. I love this channel.
Better, Sarah. That'll make it better.
Okay. No, because I found this creator's channel and I like ran into Neil and I was like, oh my god, I found the coolest new creator. And I think you had seen her at some other point.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly.
I don't remember this.
And I found her stuff and I'm like, we have to share her in our community tab, and we did. And then I reached out to her on Twitter and we started chatting. And she was just so lovely. And I went and watched all of her back catalog. And then I found out that not only is she this incredibly talented creator and all of her stuff is so compelling, but like she was so like Yeah, I make everything I do on a cell phone. Like, she doesn't use a computer. She does everything on her phone. And at one point she said, like, yeah, it can be really frustrating because if you swipe badly, like, you lose hours of work. And I was like, I don't understand.
Yep.
I don't understand because making videos is so stressful and you pour your heart and soul into them, and then we do it on a computer and it's stressful.
I exclusively use the backup drive for everything now. So
Yeah.
I mean, I actually don't want to say I'm not going to jinx anything because I think things could still go wrong. But
Yeah.
it's not a phone. It's not that precarious.
It's not
like,
as precarious
resting
as a
is how
smartphone
much you
where
live
it's
your
like,
phone.
oh, I'm using a little but you would never tell that from her stuff. And she is so meticulous and warm, and just everything about the stuff she creates. I don't know, I watch her every time she puts out a video. I'm like, oh, this is a must watch, and it's a country I know very little about. And I find her analysis so interesting. I find her, I don't know, she's just an incredible creator. I wasn't planning on introducing her. You
Okay, no,
introduced her.
well,
You were supposed to introduce her.
I can talk about that. I know how passionate that you feel about.
Bonolo's stuff is incredible.
Yes. So, and the name of the channel is Third World Miss Explorers. Bonolo is the creator behind it, and this particular video, because Third World Miss Explorers, Bonolo will tend to talk about African history and
she's a South African creator.
yes, and art history and political and cultural history in that whole part of the world, outside of South Africa as well. This particular video, because I think it's titled like a review of Shaka Zulu, but it's not. It gets to the review part. But this is so much more because the whole story behind this particular like piece of very interesting, very specific propaganda from the 1980s, you'd already expect to be a crazy story, but it cannot be covered in an introduction to this video. Like the video itself has to spend a long time talking about the context in which these events took place, and then it can get to the enormously complicated context of the film itself. All of which is to like really like, I mean, apartheid and the history of that part of history in this part of the world is like horrifying and fascinating, but it's also deeply misunderstood, and it's like very like it was sort of made the comic book villain of that era, so that everyone else could get away with their racism. And it's really interesting. This video stands as a striking bit of sobriety in that kind of muddiness. And it's amazing.
I would like to say too, and this is just a personal bugbear, but we shared a video by Bonolo on feminism, and of all of the videos we had shared before and after for a while, it got the least amount of engagement from our channel, and I'm hoping that that's just because I posted it at a weird time or something like that. But there is a part of me that thinks that people aren't willing to engage with a culture they're not familiar with, and they see that somebody's like a South African creator and they think that that's not history that they need to be aware of, as if they're not complicit in the colonialism of the country, or as if they're not. And it is upsetting because I think we have not only an obligation to be aware of things, but also like it's interesting, and the sort of like shared heritage and global heritage, and like just being aware, and I don't know, and especially with South Africa in particular, because even if you're not South African, like I feel like there was sort of a global movement with like apartheid activism that, yeah, I don't know. I don't mean to derail your very good intro, but I just hope people watch because Bonolo's so talented.
Well, we're gonna up those subscribers, and you're all gonna fall in love. Yeah, a review of Shaka Zulu.
I was scrolling through Instagram admiring the outfits the stars of Shaga Ilembe wore to the show's premiere at Monte Casino in June. Shaga Ilembe, meaning the axe, is DSTV's story of the making of a great African king. We haven't always had stories about great African men proudly advertised as prestige television, nor so many options of where to find what we want to watch. Streaming services come at a low monthly price point, and most of us shuffle between similar providers trying to avoid missing out on what's trending locally and internationally. A few decades ago, the Broederbond had a tight monopoly on South African attention spans, instructing the apartheid government to keep foreign ideas, people, programs, contrary to Afrikaner nationalism, away from the South African media, and particularly anything that might make the black man feel unsatisfied with his lot. John Foster's government appointed a commission of inquiry into matters relating to television in 1971, and it recommended that should a television service be introduced to South Africans, effective control would be needed to favor the needs of the nation and country. That's right, South Africans didn't have mainstream TV or even television sets at home by the mid-1970s because of the government's fears of its loss of control over minds and the use of satellites to access foreign television broadcasts that hadn't been censored by the government yet. Tell you more about the SABC and censorship later though. When we eventually got television, Naspers launched Mnet as a subscription-based service to compete with the SABC in 1986. The business created to manage their decoder sales, subscriber services and account management, MultiChoice, became Naspers' main video entertainment enterprise, and it launched DSTV not long after its creation. In my opinion, most South Africans understand DSTV as a monopolistic actor, charging high fees yet stingy on variety and startlingly lacking in quality. But they tried to cover a lot of bases with aggressive marketing targeted at black Southern Africans in particular, and a plethora of bits and bobs. In 2017, DSTV admitted to contravening the Competition Act and price fixing, but it continues to be the television service of choice for many South Africans, not least in part because of its eagerness to produce South African versions of international commercial successes like The Masked Singer, Love Island, The Real Housewives, etc. We hold firm that by creating increasingly unique and authentic local content, we will continue to resonate with our customers, MultiChoice said in its annual price increase statement. While I haven't started watching the show myself, it's reported to be the best performing drama series for the continental media giant MultiChoice, with 3.6 million views in South Africa and hitting number 1 on the DSTV app across Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia and elsewhere. But there are whispers. And then I remembered there was another show about Shaga Zulu, about whom you can learn more in episode 1 of Who Messed Up South Africa. That's up on my channel right now if you don't know who I'm talking about. And wondered if the SABC held a glitzy premiere party for that. And the more I tried to find out more about it, the more I realized that it's a bit too optimistic for this country in the late 80s. Eventually, I came across this critical review of the series, highlighting the oppressive environment in which art was being made at the time, also prompting questions about the nature and principles of the entertainment industry, especially what we watch on TV. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Hello everyone, what is up? Welcome back to my channel, where I periodically post videos about history and make some commentary for my now 645 wonderful subscribers. You guys are seriously really the best. The support and appreciation for my work goes a long way, especially when you drop a like and comment telling me what else you want to see me talk about. If you remember from my last video, I mentioned wanting to do some stuff on contemporary topics, and I feel like today's video is a good balance between high teen centuries and modern mass media for me, and my interminable hunger for stories about the past. If that's your kind of thing too, come read the stern condemnation of anti-black propaganda with me. Howard Rosenberg wrote Shaga Zulu, Negative Metaphor for South African Blacks, 16 years into his television critic career, so the 4 opening paragraphs of the article really transfer the crux of his observations with the attendant skill that the media-consuming public would do well to interrogate just how well-meaning or creative the art could be if the artist, or at least the artist's sponsor was a known villain. Apartheid art. It opens. Shaka Zulu is a gory, foolish, and demeaning 10-hour miniseries. Shot in South Africa, it seems to shape history to fit a contemporary political theme. Yesteryear's supposedly bloodlusting Zulus fill nearly every frame, reinforcing a wild tribal image in contrast to civilized whites. Rosenberg is right to conjure up bewilderment for apartheid art, as he rightly classifies the series, though it sits in the historical novel genre. The production was heftily funded by the apartheid regime, who knew they couldn't lead with the involvement of Broederbond-controlled SABC if they wanted anyone to see it. So an American proprietor, investor, kind of distributor was brought on in hopes that audiences wouldn't notice the opening credits and ask, wait, isn't our government imposing sanctions on South Africa? Why is this on the box? I started looking into how it actually got made, having only a surface understanding of the situation when I wrote that last part. I was misguided about the depths of convoluted scheming that held white minority rule intact back then, because I was befuddled, gobsmacked, done to be finished when I landed on a Q&A with Shaka Zulu's writer Joshua Sinclair that I highly recommend you read after this. It's a long read, but so enlightening, so informative. Let me read you just the parts that I found the most informative and relevant for this video. Camera in the Sun spoke with Sinclair for a September 2013 interview about the making and legacy of Shaka Zulu and his take on South Africa's anti-apartheid movement. How did your interest in Shaka Zulu come about? I was studying medicine, and on my way over South Africa to India, I was at Baragwanath Hospital in Soweto, and it was my first impact really with Africa. I had already written 2 other films because I started writing films when I was 14. I didn't want to do it for a living, I wanted to be a missionary. I was sitting there in Baragwanath Hospital, minding my own business, and they said, would you be interested in doing Shaka Zulu? I said yes, but I didn't know anything about it. So they gave me a couple of books and I read them. For me, his story was very Shakespearean, so I became a sort of a crusader. I said, I want Shaka Zulu to be a way for South Africa to liberate itself from apartheid. It is the mythological movie of all time. Shaka made Alexander the Great look like a wuss. These guys jogged 50 miles every day without shoes on. It was just incredible. Above all, I wanted to show this is an Africa that nobody ever stopped to look at and nobody ever stopped to ever think about. It was being commissioned by South African Broadcasting. They wanted to do it for TV3. TV3 is in Zulu. Because of the cultural boycott, they didn't want to appear as the ones who were commissioning it. Harmony Gold was given Shaka as a gift. It was used to bypass the cultural boycott. The head of Harmony Gold, Frank Agrama, has recently been convicted of tax fraud for his work with Silvio Berlusconi and got 3 years in jail, which he won't serve. I didn't even realize this was happening until years later, because I had 8% of the income and I never got that. I was just given a check once by Harmony Gold for $75,000. They made $500 million. Harmony Gold before Shaka Zulu was called FAR International, Farouk Agrama International. After Shaka Zulu, they suddenly had their own building on Sunset Boulevard, and downstairs was this giant cutout of Shaka. South African Broadcasting did something very strange for a production company. SABC put up the entire amount of the film, about $12 million or 10 million rand. The rand was stronger than the dollar in those days. But they gave 60% of the income to Harmony Gold plus expenses. That's unheard of. All Harmony Gold had to do was sell the movie, which was pretty easy. So then there were monies being funneled into a bank in Switzerland, which I think Agrama had together with Berlusconi, who was using Agrama as a fence, and South African Broadcasting was using Agrama as a fence. So the SABC didn't appear as the producers. Harmony Gold appeared as the producers, would get the money, and through a Swiss bank, give SABC back that money. A lot of it stayed in the Swiss bank and never hit South Africa. Agrama did some sales that put Harmony Gold on the map, which is actually a gold mine in South Africa. It made him rich overnight, and in a way it helped Shaka because they sold it everywhere. I told the head of the legal department at SABC, I'm just gonna do this.
You guys are nuts. This is a chance for you to show the world that you're doing something good for the black people. You're showing their heritage. In a way, it makes up for many of the mistakes of apartheid. Why wouldn't you want people to know you were doing it? That you're spending 10 million rand on the Zulu history. That's a great plus for you, but they didn't get it.
I think that's far enough for now. Let's talk about the South African Broadcasting Corporation. In 1923,
I kept expecting it to like and it just never ended.
Like plateau at like, okay, that's enough outrage and intrigue, and like, and then they made a film, right? And it's just like, no, and like Berlusconi, and like we.
And then there are Swiss bank accounts, and it just,
It does,
jeez.
yeah, like it is, it's no criticism of Bonolo that it is a little difficult to follow, because it is so many things. I think it's beautifully presented. In fact, I mean, I love that. I love Manolo's presentation, and I love it's funny. It's edited on a phone, and it's like the ease with which the script sort of like seeps into your ears. You'll have those wonderful lines like "startlingly lacking in quality." It's just like it's beautiful put down. That sort of thing. So it's very good and easy and comprehensible presentation, but it's still like just so many fucking steps. It's like, wait, like what? Like, but again, like necessary, important, and interesting, and very edifying history, and it's those great details of history that kind of make it right.
I feel like I found that with every one of their videos, though, where I start thinking, I start from a place of being like, oh, I'm gonna learn about this because I feel good about myself, citizen of the world. But then I'm like, wait, that country was involved, that thing was involved, that was involved, and it just feels like, oh, this isn't me learning about another country. This is me learning about everything.
The world.
Yeah, it's like everything sucks all the way down. Terrible as far as you go.
You need all of those different perspectives to triangulate the terrible, right? And see how it all fits together.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's yeah, like that, like it's such a fruitful channel.
Yeah, she has a whole series on like who broke South Africa, and I found that really interesting. It was a lot of stuff I didn't know, but it's a lot of like, yeah, you go in thinking you're going to learn about South African history, and you learn a lot about global history and the global players, and everything's quite connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a huge fan, and I hope we've great. It was interesting to see the chat as well, that people of whom I am a big fan are also big fans. It seems like Bono is very much a creator's creator, which I always think is the ultimate compliment.
Well, I know that like Bonolo's gotten shouted out by people who I really respect.
Yeah.
Like, I know that I was following her for a while, and then I saw like FD Signifier shouted her out, and I'm like, oh, good, Bonolo's gonna get
FD Shadow Legends?
because FD Shadow Legends because FD didn't shout her out, and then it was like, no, I don't actually see her growing that much. Which I don't quite get why our followers didn't. I don't quite get it.
Yeah,
It is.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, it's just you're probably going to make a similar point. Like it's momentum. It's lottery, and it's like you have to have multiple things happen at the right time in the right sequence, and it has to be the right video and all that, because we see this with the drastically different end results of being shared in the eyeball zone.
Yeah.
Like it's a complete lottery.
It's just like even more wild to me that like I feel like this content has everything going for it as well, where like the production value is so good, especially like it's good on its own. Knowing that it's edited on a phone, it's like it's I don't know, it's incredible, very like pleasing to listen to, very interesting in the way it's like watching a train wreck where it's like, and I'm sure not every video is like this, but this one in particular where it's like, oh my, it just keeps the actual content of the video is the way that she like brings you along on this plot and just keeps like stringing you along, and it's just really well done, really fun to listen to. So yeah, I mean, I have already subscribed, so everyone in the chat, if you like it, which you should, go subscribe.
You heard the lady.
Don't make me pull out my teacher voice.
Uh,
You don't want to disappoint Zoe B, do you? You're going to disappoint Zoe B if you don't go subscribe. No.
You're all disappointments, don't worry. And it's easier, and you can just deal with it that way. So yeah, that was actually that was the final video that we brought to the table today. So we had some new, we learned and we discovered, we shared things that we some of which we were already familiar with, and some of which people got to see for the first time. I got to see Rowan Davis for the first time. That was very exciting.
I didn't know him at all.
So
Incredible.
and Sydney from the start. Unbelievable. So good. So I'm really grateful. Thank you so much for having us, Zoe. And thank you so much for running the ship, Mandy.
I am gonna put the link in the chat right now to our Ask the Algorithm channel. We haven't streamed from there in ages, so don't necessarily worry about, oh god, I'm trying. Don't necessarily worry about coming and following us there because we're going to stream there, but we do post where we're going to stream on that channel. We're going to post a playlist with all of our picks for this month. And if you're somebody that wants to submit to us,
please send an email.
Submit like your content to the to be featured.
Not the other kind. Yeah.
Oh God.
Getting silly.
It's too hard. I didn't even think about that.
You'll have to explain it to me when I'm older. So send an email with whatever subject bar and subject matter you wish to fthealgorithms@gmail.com with your video, your name, a little bit about you, maybe your pronouns, just to make our lives easier, and maybe you send us the timestamp for the part of the video that you think we should play. Make our lives really easy. And make sure that the video is really good before you send it, and that you have 3 videos you've already made and 5 that you plan to make.
No,
I'm sorry, I'm going too far.
But
now you're gatekeeping.
We would like to ask if you're a creator who submits to us. We have had some small creators, because they're not monetized yet, send us videos that have copyrighted material in them because they're not monetized. And so they're like, well, it doesn't matter. But it screws up our streams if we try and play your videos. We're not monetized either on our FE Algorithm channel, but a lot of the people that host us are, and they can get copyright strikes. So we really don't want that to happen. So if you are a creator who wants to be featured on an FE Algorithms stream, please try and make sure you're not using copyrighted music or copyrighted material, because we don't want to get our lovely hosts in any hot water.
And the video that doesn't have copyrighted material in it would be the one to attach. And also it is the long game to play with your own content as well. It just makes your life easier. Ultimately, you never know which video is going to blow up, and it's all fine when you're playing the backwaters. And sometimes it's a joyful, rebellious act, but just make sure that you have at least some content that doesn't, and then send that to us. And we'll help you out at that point, because then we won't get in hot water. I think otherwise, I just, as long as everyone's had a wonderful time and you all feel that sense of community and gratitude, and you've all done tremendously well. You drank all the wine.
I drank all the wine.
I'm so proud of you.
I did, and all the wine stream.
All the wine in Ireland's gone.
I'm gonna be
because of
all
Sarah.
tomorrow. I'm gonna be looking at Neil, being like, "Did I make a fool of myself?" And Neil is gonna be like, "No, you did very good, whether I did or not."
We're
Very good, Sarah. You did. You're
Listen, everyone who is here has to be nice to you because you're my friends.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So yeah, everyone who is here, as long as you respect me, you have to respect them. That's how it works. I'm sorry to break it to you.
Nice.
I like this concept. I can drink more wine.
This is a kind of weird teacher's pet thing.
You're doing great, sweetie.
So yeah, no, it's been wonderful being over here, and thank you for injecting some much needed life into the Algorithm project, Zoe, and kicking us up the hole to get us supporting small creators again. And we will be back very, very soon. We're excited to, this is the small creators are where the most exciting weird decisions are being made.
Yeah.
So it's like good for us.
YouTube shit.
By the way, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, just YouTube is shit in the channels that it promotes. There are so many people who make incredible videos who never get any traction, and they're very likely to just quit. And sometimes you find dead channels where it's like, this person was amazing, and now they're a dead channel. And just, it's heartbreaking. And we don't want to have, as incredible as the established channels may be, we don't want to just hear from the same people over and over again. There are really good creators that are just not going to be promoted by the algorithm because they're not doing things that are ad friendly, or they're not doing topics that are trendy. And we kind of got to go out of our way sometimes to educate ourselves on things, because the more marginalized somebody is, the less likely they are to blow up in the algorithm.
Exactly, and that's why we do this. So you've seen enough Legal Eagle videos.
I do like to be fair.
I didn't think this was going to turn into a turf war.
I never said anything.
You directly said the name of the channel before you were done.
All I said was legal who.
I don't know who you're talking about. Mandy, what were you going to say?
Oh, I wanted to say, as a fun little quinky dink, we've been doing F the Algorithm now. We haven't been doing it obviously every month, but we've been doing this now for a year, because our first stream was also in September of last year, and also was with Zoe. So in a weird kind of, I don't remember the exact day we did it, but our first stream was in September. So if you go to our official F the Algorithm channel, the first stream you'll see on our list is the first one we do with Zoe.
It's been a whole year.
1 year anniversary of us doing this, everybody. I didn't realize that until I looked at it.
That is incredible.
That's awesome.
Right?
All right, well, happy birthday, everyone.
Happy birthday. We are 1 year old.
Yay, doing great.
Somebody in the chat says, woot woot, Virgos go off.
That is good. Yeah. Astrology. Well, look, I'm really must go to bed now. We're going to say the alphabet backwards and walk on a straight line. And
Neil can say the alphabet backwards no matter how drunk they are.
because if you memorize it,
incredible.
I can get completely trashed and
They'll do that sometimes. They'll be just completely
I'm
trashed.
fine.
Like, I'm fine.
ZYXWVTSRQPO and MLKJHGFEDCBA.
Well,
Like completely fine, darling.
chat, if you are interested in this alphabet backwards content, check out the Leftist Cooks channel. I will have their stuff linked in the description probably, or it'll be in the thing when you're on the F the Algorithm page. It'll be somewhere. And also check out our incredibly lovely host of all of the tech garbage that we're all too afraid to do, mainly Mandy, who is just the most incredible, the sweetest. We love all of our friends here. And check out Hoots, who popped in but was not able to stay, and our other hosts who are here sometimes, not all of the time, but sometimes, who are Kaylin Conrad and Ponderful. All of their stuff is around. We'll link it somewhere, or you can click on their names in chat and go to their channel from there. But yeah, thank you all for doing this, and it was so fun to hang out, and hopefully we were able to, I don't know, share all of these lovely creators with the chat. And, fuck that algorithm, as they say.
Right on.
Well put.
Okay.
All right, Mandy, how do I end this? Because I don't know what I'm doing.
I think there should be an end stream button on your side.
Oh, the big red button.
The
Okay.
big red button. Hit the big red button.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And yeah.